Welcome to Scarying YouTube channel, dear listeners and thrill seekers, to tonight's tale of terror. What if the very device you hold in your hand every day, your phone, became the gateway to something sinister? Imagine receiving a call you cannot ignore, hearing voices from places unknown, and realizing that something far darker is watching you, waiting for you. Tonight's story, The Cursed Phone, will take you deep into a nightmare from which there is no return. So, turn off the lights, silence your notifications, and settle in if you dare. Let's the story begin. Story begins. Before getting into the story, please subscribe to my channel because I'm motivated to make more horror and scary stories for you guys. Let's begin. It all started with a deal too good to be true. The ad popped up on my screen while I was browsing late at night. A high-end smartphone, one that would have cost a fortune, being sold for half the price. The listing was from a site I'd never heard of before, but the seller had good reviews. Or so I thought. The page seemed off, but it was late and I was exhausted. Without thinking much about it, I hit buy now. 2 days later, the phone arrived at my doorstep. It was sealed in a plain black box, no branding, no instructions. Odd, but I'd seen crazier things in the world of secondhand tech. I ripped open the box to reveal a sleek, glossy phone. It looked brand new, untouched. Yet, when I picked it up, it felt strangely cold. Not just the metal or glass. Cold in a way that made my skin crawl. I brushed off the unease as I powered it on. The startup was normal, though a little slow, but when the screen lit up, it was like any other modern smartphone. Crisp display, vivid colors. I began transferring my data, syncing my contacts, downloading my usual apps. Everything seemed fine, but there was something lurking just beneath the surface, something waiting for me to notice it. The first sign of trouble came that evening. As I was setting up my alarms, I noticed a contact in my phone that I had never added. Unknown caller. There were no digits or letters, just a blank space where the number should have been. I stared at it, feeling a strange chill creep up my spine. I tried deleting the contact, but it wouldn't go away. The phone froze for a moment, and when it restarted, the contact was still there. I didn't think too much of it at the time. Probably a glitch. I told myself, maybe something went wrong when I transferred my data. But that night, I was woken up by a sound that cut through the quiet of my apartment like a knife. My phone was ringing. Groggy and disoriented, I reached for it, squinting at the screen. It was unknown caller. No number, just a name blank and ominous. My heart raced, and I immediately hung up without answering. The ringing stopped, but as I lay there in the dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next night, the phone rang again at the same time, 2:33 a.m. I sat up in bed, staring at the glowing screen. Unknown caller. This time, I let it ring. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear, but I didn't answer. The ringing eventually stopped on its own, and the silence that followed was thick, suffocating. I tried to go back to sleep, but the moment I closed my eyes, I heard something, a faint whisper. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then it grew louder, unmistakable, coming from the phone on my nightstand. I picked it up, trembling, and pressed it to my ear. There was no call, no open line, but the whispers continued, low, guttural voices speaking in a language I couldn't understand. I dropped the phone in horror, but the whispering didn't stop. It was as if the phone was alive, as if something was trying to communicate with me through it. I turned off the phone and tossed it into a drawer, trying to convince myself that it was all in my head. But that night, I had the most vivid, disturbing dream. I was in my apartment, sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone when I noticed that the screen had turned black. No apps, no contacts, no messages, just endless black. And then, from within the phone, a face began to form. Pale, sunken eyes, a mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. It was watching me. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. My phone, still in the drawer, was ringing. The next day, I decided to get rid of the phone. I tried to sell it, but no one would take it. Even pawn shops turned me away, saying there was something wrong with it. Desperate, I threw the phone in the trash and bought a new one. For a few days, things were quiet. No strange calls, no whispers. I began to feel like maybe it was all over. But then one evening, as I was making dinner, I heard it. The familiar, eerie ringing. The sound wasn't coming from my new phone. It was coming from my old one. I ran to the trash, digging through the garbage until I found it, dirty, cracked, but still working. The screen glowed, and there it was again, unknown caller. My hands shook as I watched the screen light up, then go dark over and over, like some kind of relentless nightmare. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I locked the phone in a drawer, but the ringing never stopped. It echoed through the walls, through the air, through my very mind. And the whispers, they were louder now, clearer. They spoke to me, calling my name, telling me to answer, telling me I couldn't escape. I tried smashing the phone the next day. I took a hammer and shattered it into pieces, throwing the remains into the river. But even after it was destroyed, I still heard it. At 2:33 a.m., my new phone would ring, the sound echoing in my room like a death knell. I reached out to a tech expert, a friend of mine who had dealt with all kinds of strange devices before. When I showed him the remnants of the phone, he went pale. "This isn't normal," he said, visibly shaken. "It's like something's attached to it." He ran tests, but nothing made sense. The phone was no longer functional, but its presence lingered. "It's cursed," he said at last, his voice barely a whisper. "Whatever this is, it's not just a glitch. Someone is using it to get to you." The next night, the phone rang again, despite being destroyed. This time, I knew I couldn't ignore it. My hands trembling, I picked up the call. The voice on the other end was distorted, but I could hear it clearly now. "You should have answered sooner," it hissed. "Now it's too late." The lights flickered, the air grew heavy, and I felt it, a presence cold and malevolent, entering my home. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The whispering filled my head, louder and louder, until it drowned out everything else. I collapsed, and everything went black. When I woke up, the phone was gone, but the damage had been done. I'm writing this now as a warning. If you ever receive a strange phone, one that calls you late at night, don't ignore it, because it won't stop. It will follow you, haunt you, until you give in. And by the time you answer, it will already be too late. Sometimes, it's not the phone itself, but what's lurking on the other end of the line. Technology connects us, but some connections can't be broken, no matter how hard you try. If you ever get a call from unknown caller, consider whether you're ready to answer. After all, you may not like what's waiting for you. This has been The Cursed Phone, and remember, the next ring might be for you.